Have you heard the whisper that even gods tremble before the void they have sown? So begins the tale buried beneath 10 millennia of dust, where the golden age of mankind, once radiant with promise, crumbled under the weight of its own ambition. Titans strode across worlds, casting shadows longer than centuries, while the stars themselves wept molten tears for what was lost. Humanity reached for divinity and grasped only hubris, a perfection untempered by conscience. In the archives, the ink still bleeds with warnings ignored. The seeds of ruin sprouted silently, as fleets of angels and legions of steel marched without pause, their footsteps erasing the footprints of the men who dared believe in a future unbound. And somewhere, beyond the veil of time, a voice waits, reciting the horrors yet to come, promising a reckoning whose shape none may survive to describe. The first worlds of the Imperium, bathed in the light of the Emperor's promise, sang hymns to unity and strength. Cities glittered beneath golden spires, and the mechanized legions of the Adeptus Mechanicus whispered secrets of power that would one day ignite the fires of heaven. The citizens, blinded by faith and wonder, failed to see the rot beneath the marble. The stars of Terra burned brighter than reason, and in their brilliance, pride took root. Even the Primarchs, towering monuments of might and glory, could not foresee the shadows coiling in the hearts of men. Corruption moved like a slow tide, subtle as poison in a chalice, and the galaxy's first true empire trembled in silence. It was in this quiet, deceptive peace that the cracks formed, so fine that no eye could perceive them, yet strong enough to cleave eternity in two. The Golden Age was not slain by swords, but by the very hands that reached for divinity. The Emperor's vision was unyielding, a light to guide humanity, yet light casts shadows. His sons, the Primarchs, were both saviors and harbingers, each bearing gifts that would either elevate or undo their kind. Whispers told of one who would turn upon his brothers, the echo of rebellion swelling like a storm in the warp. Across star systems, loyalists and heretics danced a deadly ballet, unaware that their steps were preordained by forces older than the throne itself. The Adeptus Astartes carved their legends into the void, yet with each victory, the tapestry of ruin grew more intricate. Planets fell to dust, cultures vanished like morning fog, and the relics of progress became monuments to despair. Through it all, the Emperor watched, distant and patient, for the moment when faith would fracture and the galaxy would bleed, revealing the truth buried beneath the shimmer of the Golden Age. The webway shimmered with forbidden knowledge, and the Eldar foresaw the fractures before the stars themselves could cry out. Seers trembled as visions of betrayal unfolded, of wars that would scorch suns and rend worlds from orbit. Their warnings went unheeded, dismissed as superstition, yet the warp hummed with anticipation, a symphony of ruin orchestrated in silence. Machines powered by sacred rites betrayed their masters, and entire fleets vanished into the Empyrean void. On forgotten worlds, cults rose from the ashes of prosperity, their gods hungry and alien, whispering secrets in tongues older than humanity. Even the holiest temples of Terra could not withstand the corrosion of faith into fanaticism. Each triumph carried the seeds of catastrophe, each revelation a shadow concealing deeper horrors. The galaxy stood poised on the knife's edge, balanced between the brilliance of a fleeting age and the endless night that would claim it all. The Horus heresy came like a gale, yet no eye saw the storm until it was upon them. Brother turned against brother, and the heavens burned with the fire of betrayal. Titans clashed with the fury of worlds in their wake, while the air itself seemed to scream in agony. On Isvin, the loyal fell beneath treachery, their cries echoing across the void. Planets that once thrived were rendered graveyards, monuments to pride's folly. The warp itself erupted, a tide of chaos that devoured reason and sanity alike, as the galaxy's children tore their inheritance from one another's hands. Amid this carnage, Horus, favored son and blasphemer, strode with divine certainty, his shadow eclipsing hope. The Emperor's light flickered, dimmed but unextinguished, a beacon for those still willing to endure. And yet, even as the battle raged, the whisper of a greater darkness, hungering beyond all war, stirred in the uncharted stars. The siege of Terra was the crescendo of apocalypse, yet it was not a crescendo, but a dirge. Titans of metal and flesh clashed upon the palace walls as cataclysmic energies tore the sky. The Emperor's warriors, icons of devotion, fought with unearthly precision, yet for every victory, countless souls were consumed. Horus, the arch-traitor, approached the throne, a predator cloaked in the semblance of his father's favor. In that moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath, suspended between salvation and annihilation. The throne room shook with the weight of destiny, as if the stars themselves had come to witness the judgment of humanity. One swing of blade could decide eons of history, yet none could fully comprehend the scope of what hung in balance. And beyond the walls, the void watched, patient, anticipating the outcome that might shatter more than mere worlds. The Emperor, radiant and terrible, struck Horus with the force of 10,000 suns, yet the act was not victory, but an eternal wound. Horus fell, yet the galaxy's scars were now permanent, etched deep into reality. Loyalist blood mingled with heretic, sanctity with profane, creating a miasma that would linger for millennia. The throne, now a prison as much as a beacon, held the Emperor in a state between life and legend, a god suspended. Across the Imperium, whispers of the Golden Age's fall hardened into dogma, fear molded into faith. Planets rebuilt their ruins, yet the shadow of heresy remained in every corner, a reminder that perfection was always fleeting. And in the warp, where dreams of power festered, the faint echo of Horus' ambition lingered, suggesting that the story of the Golden Age was far from over. The galaxy bled in silence as the Imperium turned inward, erecting fortresses to shield fragile hope from ceaseless war. The Adeptus Astartes became silent sentinels, their vigilance eternal, watching borders frayed by chaos. Prelates preached salvation, while the Mechanicus whispered secrets into the ears of men who had long forgotten the price of knowledge. The stars, once witnesses to progress, now wept radiation and flame. And yet, even in the ashes, glimpses of the old world shimmered, relics of art, of science, of unity, preserved in cathedrals carved from living rock. The memory of what humanity once was, and what it could have been, haunted the living. It was a quiet morning, a subdued panic, as if the universe itself waited for the first misstep that would plunge all into irredeemable darkness. The Golden Age was not dead. It lingered, a specter hungry for remembrance. Rumors of the Primarch's fates spread like ghosts across the Imperium. Some said they lingered in secret, watching, guiding, or punishing. Others whispered of monstrous transformations, of their names erased by time itself. Even the loyal feared what those who had fallen might one day reclaim. The Imperium built, repaired, and fortified, yet it was an edifice of trembling hands and tentative faith. Cults of the heretical prospered quietly, their rituals carving tiny rifts into reality. And the warp, patient and merciless, bided its time, as if measuring the depth of mankind's arrogance. Each victory in the mortal realm seemed ephemeral against the tide of entropy, each sacred relic a potential beacon for doom. And somewhere, in the heart of forgotten systems, the faint hum of a machine older than reason itself began to stir, awaiting a hand that would awaken it. The Mechanicus delved into secrets that should have remained buried, seeking knowledge of the Golden Age's end and the technologies lost to time. They deciphered codices written in languages older than the stars, unlocking devices that hummed with dormant fury. Their ambition was tempered by ritual, yet it could not suppress curiosity or hunger. On worlds abandoned for millennia, Forbidden's relics awoke, their creators long dead, but their designs perfected beyond comprehension. Some whispered that these relics bore the consciousness of the Golden Age itself, a memory that could never truly die. As they awoke, the stars seemed to shiver, and the boundary between past and present thinned. For every revelation, a new question festered. Had the Golden Age truly fallen, or was it merely waiting patient in the machinery of gods and men alike, ready to reclaim what was once its dominion? The silent crusades spread into the outer fringes, yet these borders were not empty. Shadows moved in the warp, subtle as sighs, manifesting in whispers, visions, and nightmares. Entire civilizations vanished without record, leaving nothing but ruins that hummed with alien resonance. Even the most devout Astartes spoke of premonitions, of echoes from the Golden Age that carried warnings impossible to decipher. Space itself seemed uneasy, a fabric stretching under weight unseen. Yet humanity pressed on, building, fighting, surviving, convinced of its dominion. The stars, patient and cold, observed the struggle, for they knew that no empire lasts forever. And in the void between, a fissure formed, small but deliberate, a whisper that perhaps the Golden Age had never truly ended, but had only been waiting, watching, biding its time until the galaxy was ready for the next truth. In the hushed corridors of Terra, in chambers forbidden even to the Emperor's most loyal, the whispers of a deeper secret persist. Ancient archives hum with forbidden energy, recording histories that contradict the sanctioned canon. Some speak of a power predating even the Emperor, a presence that guided the rise and fall of the Golden Age with cold precision. Shadows move in patterns that mortals cannot interpret, and every star holds a memory that resists comprehension. And yet, even as the Imperium looks outward, the real threat festers inward, subtle as a virus in the bloodstream of humanity. The Golden Age's truth has never been fully revealed, and perhaps never will. But in the darkness, a single signal pulses, faint yet deliberate, suggesting that what has been lost may not be gone, and that the reckoning humanity fears may have already begun. The incense of sanctity clung to the cathedral air, drifting like ghosts over stone floors worn by millennia. Priests muttered litanies that had outlasted their understanding, their voices trembling as if the words themselves feared awakening a dormant truth. In the shadows, Astartes' patrols moved with solemn ritual, each step echoing over the hollow cries of the faithful. Even the most devout sensed the imperfection beneath perfection, the cracks in doctrine, the stains of doubt unspoken. Across the Imperium, whispers spread like fever, rumors of forbidden pacts, relics that should not breathe, and saints whose visions contradicted canon. Faith, once a bastion, became a mirror for uncertainty, reflecting every fear, every weakness, every betrayal. And in this quiet erosion, the machinery of power continued its march, unseeing, uncaring, while the galaxy waited for the first spark that would ignite devotion into ruin. Astarte commanders convened on war-torn moons, their armors etched with the prayers of generations. Strategy and ritual merged as one, yet beneath the surface, conflict festered. Brothers debated doctrine as sharply as they did tactics. Belief became weaponized, and loyalty fractured under scrutiny. Some invoked the Emperor's will, others questioned the path carved in his name, and murmurs of heresy curled through their ranks. On the battlefield, their enemies were not always Xenos or traitors, but shadows in their own minds. Every victory carried a subtle unease, every order whispered a potential sin. Generals concealed doubts beneath layers of devotion, while lieutenants watched with suspicion, ready to strike at weakness. And as the stars spun silently beyond shattered skylines, the galaxy learned that wars of faith could be deadlier than wars of steel, for betrayal born in belief spreads faster than fire across dry wood. In the high halls of Terra, the governors of countless sectors whispered in chambers sealed against the faithful and inquisitors alike. Secrets traded hands like currency, and alliances were built on fear rather than trust. Some spoke of premonitions, visions of worlds undone not by war, but by devotion misapplied. The Emperor's laws, once absolute, were now pliant, stretched by ambition and fear. Political heresy blossomed quietly, feeding on the faith of those who dared hope. Archmagisters and cardinal lords engaged in subtle duels, their victories measured in eroded loyalties rather than blood. The hum of data vaults carried confessions no mortal should know, while the echo of judgment lingered in every corridor. Even the devout could not tell whether they served righteousness or the machinery of manipulation. And in the quiet of these corridors, a single document surfaced, ancient and damning, hinting that the Golden Age's fall was neither accident nor war but deliberate, orchestrated by hands still hidden. Among the shattered moons of a dead system, the Mechanicus labored in reverent obsession. Machines whispered forgotten prayers to flesh, and flesh trembled before the divinity of cog and gear. Tech priests discovered artifacts that should have remained dormant, their activation revealing data that contradicted all histories. Within this revelation, doubt arose, more potent than any weapon. Perhaps the Emperor himself had known the Golden Age's collapse was necessary, a preordained culling to forge the Imperium. The Adeptus Mechanicus debated endlessly, each argument punctuated by sparks and chance, as if the stars themselves watched their indecision. Cults, long buried, stirred in response, their rituals informed by knowledge too dangerous to comprehend. And in this interplay between steel and spirit, humanity glimpsed a truth forbidden to its kind, that the line between devotion and complicity was not thin, it was an abyss, and many had already stepped into its shadow without realizing. On worlds torn by rebellion, the Imperium's forces waged campaigns where victory felt hollow. Entire populations bent under the yoke of loyalty enforced, yet disquiet grew in the hearts of soldiers and citizens alike. In whispered corners, confessions revealed that obedience was often bought with fear, and righteousness was measured by convenience. Even heroes of legend doubted the path they trod, and legends themselves became suspect. The warp stirred around these breaches of belief, sensing vulnerability and devotion corrupted. Every battle scarred the mind as much as the body, for the enemy of the soul left no corpse to mourn. And in the ruins of sacred temples, inscriptions hinted at truths hidden by the Emperor, as if the universe itself sought to remind humanity that blind faith carries a price, and some debts can never be repaid. Among the Adeptus Astartes, silence was never empty. Warriors lingered over fallen brothers, questioning why loyalty demanded blood without question. Shadows of doubt settled in the halls of monastic fortresses, spreading like fungus through scripture and ritual. Chaplains walked corridors chanting, their prayers punctuated by the quiet murmur of hesitation. Even relics of the Golden Age whispered uncertainty, their designs flawless yet unsettling, their origins obscure. In the minds of battle brothers, questions were sins, yet silence could be louder than heresy. And beneath it all, a subtle signal pulsed, faint as the heartbeat of a dead world, suggesting that what the Imperium clung to as truth may have been fabricated, manipulated, or twisted by unseen forces, awaiting the moment when certainty collapses entirely, leaving faith naked in the dark. In the void, fleets drifted between stars as emissaries of belief and conquest, navigated the delicate lattice of politics and war. Each ship carried commanders who doubted their orders, chaplains who feared their prayers, and soldiers who questioned the righteousness of their cause. Messages intercepted revealed allegiances that shifted as easily as the tides of the warp. Even as the Imperium projected unity, rot festered in quiet corners, hidden cults, clandestine uprisings, and conspiracies within conspiracies. The void, patient and eternal, watched each move, each hesitation, recording histories no chronicler could ever transcribe fully. And in the murmur of come echoes, there emerged a pattern, a deliberate subversion so subtle that even the vigilant could not discern it until it had already struck, leaving doubt where once there was certainty, and terror where once there was faith. Among the high lords and cardinal priests, clandestine meetings unfolded, their secrecy guarded by the weight of fear and ritual. Trust was currency, and betrayal the toll demanded for ambition. Some plotted to expose truths too terrible for the masses, while others conspired to manipulate those same revelations for dominion. Each whispered decision reshaped the future, though the players could not see the consequences. The galaxy, in its vastness, became a chessboard where pawns believed themselves kings, and kings trembled at shadows they could not name. And in this labyrinth of plots, a single act of disclosure ignited panic, evidence that Horus' legacy, the Emperor's purpose, and the fall of the Golden Age may have been guided not by accident or rebellion, but by design, a design whose architect was neither man nor God. In remote sectors, the Inquisition pursued heresy not only in flesh but in thought. Minds were dissected under scrutiny, loyalties measured against impossible standards, and even the most devout trembled under their gaze. Records revealed contradictions, events that could not coexist with sanctioned history, and visions that suggested a greater heresy than rebellion, a systematic manipulation of faith itself. Clerics who once preached salvation faltered, and warriors who once struck without hesitation now hesitated at every command. The Imperium's foundation, built on certainty, quaked under these revelations. And in the shadows, subtle patterns hinted that a hidden hand had shaped every known betrayal, every rebellion, every fracture in devotion, not to punish, but to awaken something waiting, a truth too terrible for comprehension, yet now poised to emerge. On worlds of sacred remembrance, relics of the past became harbingers of doubt. Ancient tombs whispered through data vaults, mechanical guardians faltered, and visions of the Golden Age contradicted every learned history. Those who touched these relics felt unease, as if the memories they carried were not theirs to hold. Prophecies recorded in forbidden tongues hinted at betrayal beyond comprehension, that the Imperium's collapse and rise were orchestrated not merely by traitors or heretics, but by forces manipulating belief itself. Even the most steadfast leaders shivered at the implication, for it suggested that loyalty and righteousness were instruments, not virtues, and that faith may have always been the true battlefield. Among the Adeptus Mechanicus, a breakthrough occurred that chilled even the most devout tech priests. Deep within forgotten circuits, a signal pulsed with intelligence older than the Emperor, encoding truths that no mortal should access. It suggested that the Golden Age's fall had been engineered. Every war, every heresy, every act of devotion directed toward a purpose concealed by design. The data refused interpretation by conventional logic, hinting at an intelligence beyond comprehension. And as the Mechanicus debated revelation or suppression, the first signs appeared that the signal had begun to awaken others' entities, minds or forces long dormant, now stirring, eager to claim what had been orchestrated for 10,000 years. In the heart of Terra, beneath the throne itself, a vision unfolded to a single, forgotten witness: the Emperor's will, the Golden Age's design, and Horus' rebellion converged not by chance, but by manipulation. The witness saw the threads, the architecture of betrayal and devotion intertwined, and understood too late that revelation carries its own curse. A figure approached, veiled and unrecorded in any history, bearing truths that should not be known. And before the witness could speak, the entity vanished, leaving only a faint pulse resonating through the galaxy. A signal, a promise, or a warning. The Imperium slept, blind and devout, yet somewhere in the shadows, certainty fractured forever, and the first hints of the next heresy, older and darker than any yet faced, began to seep into the fabric of all that remained. The void hummed like a dying heart, and through it, the faint light of a crimson star illuminated ruins long thought forgotten. In the silence, a lone warrior knelt, praying not for victory but for understanding, as memories of lost brothers and shattered worlds pressed like gravestones upon his mind. His faith, fragile yet unyielding, trembled under the weight of truths glimpsed in dreams, that the Imperium's victories were hollow, its laws scaffolds for illusions. Around him, fleets drifted like tombs, each vessel a mausoleum of hope and betrayal. The whispers of the warp crept into his soul, probing doubts he had buried beneath steel and scripture. And in that meditation, he realized the galaxy itself had become a confession booth. Every war, every sin, every fleeting triumph, a prayer to forces that neither answered nor forgave. On a besieged hive world, the air was thick with smoke and devotion. Priests led processions past the bodies of the faithful, their chants hollow against the backdrop of artillery fire. Citizens clung to ritual as the only tether to survival, yet fear gnawed at conviction like acid on metal. Soldiers whispered of visions, of enemies that were not merely Xenos, but manifestations of despair and lost faith. Commanders debated the morality of obedience as weapons burned and civilians fled, their screams blending with sacred hymns. Every act of devotion risked corruption. Every order concealed temptation. And in the midst of this chaos, a single relic, unearthed in the ruins, emitted a psychic resonance so profound that it fractured minds, revealing not only hidden truths, but the reflection of the Imperium's fragile soul, a mirror too terrible for sanity to endure. In the heart of the Mechanicus' deep labyrinths, cogitators trembled as forbidden knowledge awoke. Circuits, once silent, hummed with an intelligence older than mankind, older even than the Emperor's vision. Tech priests felt their devotion tested, for the machine whispered not promises, but absolution and blame alike. It revealed patterns in the rise and fall of the Golden Age, threads connecting heresy, loyalty, and rebellion with deliberate precision. Faith, once a shield, now became a lens that distorted reality, forcing priests to question whether the Emperor had led them, or whether they had always been pawns in a design beyond comprehension. The labyrinth's walls shivered, the data vaults resonated, and a single understanding took root. The universe was a crucible, and the Imperium's faith was fuel, a necessary ignition for a destiny hidden beneath the bones of creation itself. Amid shattered starports, battle brothers moved like specters, their hearts torn between duty and dread. Each step reminded them of fallen comrades. Each breath carried the scent of ruin. Chaplains whispered absolution, yet their voices carried undertones of terror, as if they too feared what truth awaited behind the veil of obedience. In moments of quiet, memories of childhood, homeworlds, and unfulfilled vows surged forth, clashing with orders that demanded unwavering commitment. And in those private confessions, they glimpsed the heresy that had festered since the fall of the Golden Age, that loyalty might be a cage, righteousness a weapon, and faith a currency manipulated by hands unseen. As distant suns flickered like dying candles, the battlefield became not just a war of arms, but a war of perception, where the smallest doubt could ignite chaos beyond comprehension. On a forgotten observatory orbiting a shattered sun, scholars of the Adeptus Astrotelepathica unearthed visions that threatened reason itself. Across psychic channels, whispers from the warp suggested that reality was mutable, shaped not by deeds alone, but by belief, by devotion itself. Each revelation peeled back layers of history, exposing falsehoods layered over the bones of empires. The Golden Age's fall was not a singular event, but a series of orchestrated manipulations, a design so intricate it had become invisible. Scholars trembled as the warp projected futures both glorious and apocalyptic, their minds bending under impossible weight. And in that convergence, one truth emerged. What the Imperium had worshipped, defended, and feared for 10 millennia was only a fragment of a far larger architecture, a secret embedded in the very lattice of existence, awaiting the moment to awaken and reshape the cosmos. The Silent Crusades found worlds abandoned yet alive, resonating with energies older than human comprehension. Astartes patrolled ruins, confronting not just rebels or Xenos, but the psychic remnants of civilizations erased from memory. Whispers of the warp suggested purpose, a hidden hand guiding every struggle, every act of devotion, every betrayal. Soldiers sensed eyes watching from the void, unseen and unrecorded, yet intimate as conscience. And when they encountered cults that claimed to serve no god, but truth itself, the warrior's faith faltered, for these sects spoke of destinies and manipulations that aligned with the deepest fears he had never voiced. Every confrontation became not only physical but spiritual, a trial in which loyalty, courage, and belief were measured against a standard that none could define, where the galaxy itself seemed to judge the hearts of its champions. Beneath the throne of Terra, secret chambers groaned with the weight of centuries. Archivists discovered codices predating even the Emperor's rule, inscribed in a script whose comprehension induced visions of inevitability. These texts spoke of cycles, edges of ascent and collapse, orchestrated, deliberate, and eternal. Faith was presented not as salvation, but as a mechanism, a crucible to purify, to manipulate, to bend reality. Those who read too deeply found themselves transformed, understanding the Imperium not as protector, but as instrument, their loyalty reframed as complicity in a design beyond reckoning. And as the corridors pulsed with the hum of ancient machinery, one archivist glimpsed a figure unseen in history, not human nor divine, waiting for the cycle to reach its apex, heralding an awakening that would rewrite the meaning of faith across the stars. In the drifting remnants of a stellar graveyard, psychers experienced revelations in bursts of agony. Stars ignited and extinguished in visions, revealing histories of civilizations that had been carefully pruned from the fabric of time. Every act of devotion, every rebellion, every heresy now appeared as threads in a tapestry whose weaver was neither mortal nor god, but an intelligence that transcended comprehension. The psychers' minds strained under the enormity, each understanding fracturing sanity even as it expanded awareness. And when they attempted to convey these truths, words failed, concepts too vast, too intricate for any tongue. In the end, only a single certainty remained: humanity had been a tool, faith a lever, and the Imperium merely a mechanism to awaken or contain something far older, hidden within the lattice of creation itself. Amid the debris of the cicatrix maledictum, loyalist and traitor alike felt the subtle pull of destiny. Warp storms raged, but beneath them, an unseen force guided trajectories, suggesting that even chaos was a pawn in a greater design. Commanders made choices, unaware that their hands were moved by currents they could not perceive. Soldiers who prayed felt prayers unanswered yet purposeful, as if their devotion fed something lurking beyond comprehension. And when fleets clashed, the explosions echoed not only across space but across perception, revealing fleeting glimpses of entities woven into reality's fabric, watching, waiting, calibrating the Imperium's responses, as if the galaxy itself were a machine being tested. The outcome of war was no longer uncertain. It was observed, measured, and shaped by powers whose motives could shatter reason entirely. In the hive worlds of the Segmentum Ultima, whispers of rebellion intertwined with doctrine. Priests and inquisitors debated, accused, and confessed, yet every certainty fractured under scrutiny. Rumors of the hidden hand reached even the most isolated sectors, suggesting that every victory, every failure, and every act of devotion was part of a design older than mankind. Soldiers began to question why loyalty demanded such sacrifice, why righteousness required cruelty, why faith justified atrocity. And in this turmoil, a psychic tremor swept the world, a presence, vast and alien, acknowledging the collective doubt and reshaping perception. Humanity's understanding of purpose, of the Emperor, and of history itself began to unravel. The galaxy shivered, sensing that the truth of all things, the Golden Age, the heresy, the Imperium's survival, was not merely hidden but intentionally obscured, poised to awaken in a way no mortal could survive unaltered. On the edge of uncharted space, a solitary world stirred with preternatural life. Relics of the Golden Age, once inert, pulsed with awakening energy, emitting signals that penetrated the minds of all who dared approach. A solitary figure, neither fully human nor divine, emerged from the storm of light and shadow. It revealed a glimpse of the cosmic design, that all wars, heresies, and devotions had been scaffolding for a revelation waiting beyond comprehension. The witness trembled as understanding unfurled. The Imperium was not an end but a mechanism, faith not a shield but a conduit. And in that moment, the figure vanished, leaving a signal, a transformation, and a single undeniable truth. Humanity had been chosen, not as masters of the galaxy, but as vessels for a secret carved into the bones of reality itself. A secret now stirring to claim the stars. The void above a dying planet was silent, yet silence carried weight, like the pause before a scream. Soldiers knelt among shattered spires, their armor dented, their banners torn, each man remembering every oath broken, every prayer unanswered. Devotion had become a chain of iron, each link forged from sacrifice and fear. In the distance, orbital bombardments waited, their engines humming like celestial predators, poised to strip the world bare. The faithful whispered confession to ghosts, to the stars, to gods that seemed deaf, as if seeking absolution for sins too numerous to name. Time itself felt slowed, compressed into the heartbeat of a universe watching judgment unfold. And in that stillness, the cost of obedience was visible in every crater, every fallen comrade, every fractured mind-proof that loyalty, when weaponized by necessity and fear, could be the most merciless executioner of all. In the command sanctum, officers reviewed the remains of fleets, each destroyed vessel a ledger of devotion lost or misapplied. Strategy and faith intertwined, yet neither offered comfort. Generals traced fingers over maps scarred by orbital fire, remembering decisions that had orphaned worlds and slaughtered innocents in the name of duty. Whispers of betrayal hung in the air. Alliances had shifted, orders had been ignored, and loyalty had been traded like currency. Even the most resolute hearts trembled beneath the weight of what was owed and what had been taken. Outside, bombardments began with measured precision, the planet's surface convulsing beneath each impact. Soldiers braced, not only against shrapnel and fire, but against the realization that their devotion, their obedience, might only serve to accelerate ruin. And yet, despite despair, they rose, compelled by duty that had become indistinguishable from fatalism. Among the Adeptus Astartes, the chapters gathered silently, their minds heavy with memories of victories tainted by blood. Brothers remembered the faces of those they could not save, the oaths they could not uphold, and the small failures that had rippled into catastrophe. Armaments clanged in preparation for planetary descent, while chaplains offered sermons that sounded hollow even to themselves. Each word of encouragement was a dagger to a conscience sharpened by endless conflict. Outside, the skies churned with approaching fleets, light from distant stars refracting through the smoke of burning cities. The warrior's mind oscillated between the calm of ritual and the terror of what awaited, understanding that the true enemy was not merely the Xenos or heretic before them, but the weight of judgment carried in their own hearts. Every step forward became a penance, every act of valor a prayer for redemption that might never come. On a shattered hive world, civilians clung to shelter as the rumble of artillery echoed like the growl of a god. Their devotion to the Emperor was tested with each thunderous impact, each scream rising through fractured streets. Priests moved among the ruins, distributing absolution with trembling hands, aware that faith could not repair what had been lost. Mothers prayed for sons conscripted into endless war. Fathers remembered promises they could not keep. Even the children sensed the breach of sacred order, their wide eyes reflecting stars that had long ceased to shine. Outside, firestorms spread across the horizon, leaving skeletal silhouettes of spires and towers. Every soul on that world felt the subtle shift in the cosmos, the quiet acknowledgement that obedience and loyalty exacted a cost far greater than any victory could justify, and that the galaxy would never again return to innocence. In the deep corridors of the Inquisition, dossiers stacked to the ceiling recorded centuries of crimes, betrayals, and devotions misapplied. Inquisitors debated the morality of judgment, aware that every decision could reverberate across countless worlds. Some advocated ruthless purging, others measured intervention, yet none could deny the fractures running through the Imperium. The warp whispered through psychic conduits, suggesting that punishment alone could not restore balance, for the very act of devotion had been manipulated. Every accusation carried the weight of hidden design. Every confession hinted at truths too dangerous for mortal comprehension. The Inquisitors realized that the sins they sought to rectify were woven into the fabric of reality itself. And as fleets moved in orbit and armies marshaled on the surface, they understood that the coming storm would not only test strength, but define the very meaning of faith loyalty, and survival across the galaxy. Above the Cicatrix Maledictum, ships maneuvered in silence, the void alive with the tension of anticipation. Captains surveyed the fractured stars, remembering battles where obedience had meant ruin and hesitation had been lethal. The psychic hum of distant warp storms carried voices remnants of heretics, loyalists, and the unknown that blurred the line between guidance and manipulation. A single misstep could annihilate entire formations. A single choice could unravel the tenuous threads holding the Imperium together. Pilots whispered prayers to icons long ignored, while gunners felt the weight of history pressing on their shoulders. Even as targeting arrays lit with deadly precision, every weapon fired seemed not just a strike against the enemy, but a statement of accumulated guilt, a release of unacknowledged remorse. And in that suspended moment, the galaxy itself seemed to inhale, waiting for the first spark to ignite the culmination of centuries of faith, failure, and silent rebellion. On a ruined forge world, the Mechanicus labored under the shadow of cathedral spires shattered by bombardment. Servitors moved mechanically, yet the minds controlling them trembled with memory of decisions that had cost lives, knowledge, and worlds. Relics activated, humming with energy that seemed to judge the intent of those nearby. Tech priests whispered to one another, debating the morality of the machine's revelations. Their faith was tested against proof that the Imperium's history had been shaped as much by manipulation as by heroism. Each decision to repair or deploy a device now carried moral weight, as if the artifacts themselves could determine the fate of men. Outside, war raged, but within the vaults, a quieter, more insidious conflict unfolded. The understanding that loyalty, devotion, and obedience were not merely ideals but instruments in a design whose architect remained unseen, waiting for the moment to strike. Among the battle brothers on the surface, silence preceded the first wave of orbital fire. Soldiers remembered past victories and losses, each memory a scar etched into both mind and soul. Chaplains moved with solemn cadence, their prayers a counterpoint to the shuddering of the ground beneath bombardment. Every order given or obeyed carried weight beyond strategy. It was a testament to devotion, a reckoning for every life lost, every oath broken. Eyes lifted to the sky, glimpsing firestorms reflected in distant stars, and hearts understood that no act of valor could undo the cost of obedience. And when the first salvo struck, it was not only structures that crumbled, but illusions. The notion that loyalty, faith, and righteousness were simple, that duty was clear, that devotion guaranteed purpose. The galaxy reshaped itself in the shadows of explosions, leaving only the stark truth of consequence. In the orbit of a world on the edge of annihilation, admirals watched fleets maneuver with precision, born of fear and experience. Signals carried warnings and threats, yet every communication hinted at the underlying manipulation shaping the battle's outcome. Officers wrestled with hesitation, wondering whether each maneuver was dictated by strategy, instinct, or the invisible hand guiding destiny. Warp storms brewed nearby, their psychic turbulence magnifying doubt, fear, and latent guilt. Each choice echoed across space, amplifying consequences and sowing unrest in both loyalist and rebel ranks. Even the stars seemed to judge, reflecting destruction and memory alike. And as the first drops of debris began to rain across the surface, commanders recognized the staggering weight of centuries converging, that the galaxy's course, shaped by devotion, betrayal, and unseen design, now approached a tipping point from which no return would be possible. In the hushed corridors of a shattered palace, governors, prelates, and surviving nobles convened, aware that every alliance, every compromise, and every betrayal had contributed to the approaching cataclysm. Arguments erupted over strategy, morality, and faith, yet all were shadowed by fear of unseen manipulation. Documents revealed inconsistencies, conspiracies, and manipulations reaching back millennia, suggesting the Imperium itself was a stage, its actors unaware of the playwright. Every whispered plan carried risk, every decision a moral crucible. And as distant bombardments shook the foundations, Those present understood the fragility of authority and loyalty, realizing that all their carefully wrought control might crumble under forces they could neither anticipate nor confront. The galaxy teetered, poised at the edge of revelation, where faith and fear, devotion and despair would collide to shape a destiny that none alive could yet comprehend. On a battlefield scorched by centuries of conflict, warriors advanced into the chaos, their thoughts heavy with memory and anticipation. Every fallen brother was a reminder, every broken oath a weight pressing against armor and soul alike. Psychic tremors from the warp flickered across the horizon, glimpses of potential futures, both glorious and annihilative. Commands were obeyed, yet hearts quaked with doubt, realizing that loyalty had been measured, recorded, and manipulated across generations. And as the armies converged beneath the burning skies, a sudden terrible clarity struck, that the culmination of all wars, faith, and betrayal was imminent, that the galaxy itself awaited the stroke that would forever redefine obedience, purpose, and the fragile notion of righteousness. Silence and fire merged, and the final act of preparation began, poised on the knife's edge of cosmic consequence. Beneath a blood-red sun, the last moments before the storm were a crucible of stillness. Soldiers, priests, and commanders alike inhaled the weight of history, every choice ever made echoing in their minds. Devotion trembled alongside terror. Memory coiled with anticipation. The warp pulsed subtly, unseen but palpable, like a heartbeat vibrating through reality itself. Faith, once a shield, felt fragile as glass. Obedience, once a compass, now seemed a chain. And as the first world-shaking salvo approached, the galaxy paused with bated breath, the machinery of destiny aligning across countless systems. In that pregnant instant, the audience feels the culmination of centuries of war, betrayal, and devotion poised to erupt. Yet the final strike remains unfallen, the revelation unspoken, a suspended apocalypse where choice, fate, and cosmic design tremble together on the brink of their ultimate convergence. The sky tore open above the capital, lightning of pure warp energy scarring the heavens as bombardment struck with unstoppable rhythm. Soldiers fell, twisted, their prayers swallowed by thunder and flame. Armors scorched, banners shredded, men and women pressed forward, hearts pounding with terror and devotion. Every command, every order was etched in the tremor of sacrifice. Every hesitation a judgment. Chaplains screamed litanies over the din, their voices raw, their faith bleeding into the fire around them. Titans walked like gods fallen from grace, stamping craters into the earth as fleets clashed in orbit. Amid the chaos, the weight of millennia pressed on all who remained, and for a fleeting instant, the battlefield was not space or planet, but the very axis of history itself. The universe seemed to hold its breath, waiting, trembling, as destiny prepared its reckoning. Amid the shattered spires, a squad of Astartes advanced through fire and smoke, the smell of ozone and blood thick in their lungs. Every step was a choice, every action a confession. One brother fell, his scream swallowed by the crack of energy beams. Another struck down 3 enemies with a flurry, his fury immaculate, his devotion lethal. In the chaos, orders blurred with instinct, and instinct merged with memory. Of worlds lost, of comrades betrayed by fate, of battles won and hollowed by consequence. The squad commander paused, sensing the presence of something greater than the enemy, a force orchestrating carnage beyond mortal reckoning. And in that moment of hesitation, the war's meaning shifted. Faith, obedience, valor, all instruments in a design that none had fully comprehended until now, revealed only in the crucible of fire, blood, and psychic revelation. Above the city, a thunderhawk streaked through flames, carrying the last hope of civilians and command staff alike. From its cockpit, the pilot watched as the world became a furnace, flames illuminating every ruin, every monument, every broken faith. Orders came and went, a torrent of commands whose purpose now seemed both necessary and meaningless. Below, Battle brothers clashed with foes who were not only human, but echoes, wraiths, specters of doubt. Every swing of a blade carried the weight of betrayal. Every discharge of a weapon, a prayer for absolution. And in the midst of destruction, the pilot glimpsed the signal, the pulse from the hidden architect of destiny, threading through reality like a cord of silver fire, reminding all who lived that the galaxy had been manipulated, guided, and tested beyond comprehension. And the climax of that design was now unspooling before their eyes. On the edge of the war-torn planet, the Emperor's Chosen fought a duel that echoed across space and time. Each strike of the Primarch's blade sang with history. Each parry resonated with millennia of devotion. Sparks rained as steel met steel. The battlefield trembled beneath titanic footsteps. Soldiers watched, hearts caught between hope and despair, knowing that this single confrontation might define not only the war, but the very structure of the Imperium itself. Every thought, every memory, every prayer rose with the clash. The devotion of centuries, the guilt of betrayal, the sacrifices unseen. And as the duel reached its crescendo, a single shattering revelation struck the minds of those present, an understanding of the Golden Age's fall, the manipulation of faith, and the consequences of obedience that altered perception, reshaping loyalty, destiny, and despair in the same instant. Across the orbital void, fleets collided with the fury of dying stars, engines screaming, guns spitting fire and wrath. Commanders shouted through shattered Vox networks, their voices trembling with the effort to control chaos they no longer understood. Entire squadrons were consumed by nova-like explosions, the debris of their courage scattered into the void. Pilots and gunners felt the subtle pull of unseen hands guiding destruction, manipulating outcomes with a precision that mocked human comprehension. In the madness, a psychic scream erupted from the warp, threading through fleets like lightning, exposing hidden truths, glimpses of betrayals centuries old, and the weight of devotion misused. Every strike, every maneuver became part of a revelation, a crucible testing not only strength and strategy, but the very nature of faith, obedience, and the cost of existing within a universe shaped by forces unseen and eternal. Within the cathedral of the capital, chaplains and survivors clung to pillars, chanting with trembling voices as the walls shook and windows shattered. The faithful wept, screamed, and prayed, their devotion colliding with despair. Every relic, every icon seemed to tremble with energy, resonating with the revelation that obedience had been manipulated, loyalty measured, and faith used as both weapon and fuel. Outside, war raged with indiscriminate fury, each explosion mirroring the destruction of belief and hope within those who survived. And in that cathedral, a lone figure raised an arm, touching an artifact that pulsed with the memory of the Golden Age, awakening understanding in those who dared witness it, that history, faith, and devotion were not organic but orchestrated, and that the culmination of all sacrifice and obedience had arrived, poised to reshape the galaxy's destiny beyond any mortal comprehension. Among the Titans, the war machines moved like titans of myth, stomping craters into the scarred earth, their weapons vomiting fire and steel. Pilots struggled with reverence and terror, recalling battles lost, brothers fallen, victories hollowed by manipulation. Sparks and shells tore through armor, and yet every movement, every shot, resonated with history itself, each strike a question and an answer entwined. The cost of obedience, the burden of devotion, the inevitability of sacrifice. The ground itself shivered beneath their feet, echoing the psychic tremors of hidden truths surfacing from beyond comprehension. As one Titan fell to a heretic's charge, the pilot glimpsed a vision, a lattice of destiny connecting the galaxy, the Imperium, the Golden Age, and the unseen architect behind it all. And in that instant, comprehension became terror, and terror became the final fuel for the storm consuming all. On the shattered plains, squads of soldiers pressed forward, their hearts heavy with grief, guilt, and devotion. They moved in unison, a rhythm born of discipline and fear, striking, falling, rising again, each act an echo of centuries of obedience. Every lost comrade left a scar not only on flesh but on spirit. The battlefield resonated with the tension of revelation, the understanding that every action had been anticipated, every decision observed, every prayer manipulated. And in the brief moments of silence between volleys, each soldier recognized the cost of faith in a universe shaped by unseen design. The war was no longer merely for survival or victory. It had become a trial of understanding, of consciousness, of the capacity to endure the recognition that loyalty itself could be a chain, and devotion could be a weapon wielded by a mind older than God's. Above the battlefield, the warp convulsed, psychic tendrils erupting like living lightning, revealing glimpses of truths beyond mortal comprehension. Psychers screamed in agony, their visions cutting through the chaos, threading history, betrayal, and faith into one incomprehensible tapestry. The storms revealed connections between the Golden Age's fall, Horus Rebellion, and the machinations now culminating before the galaxy's eyes. Each revelation struck like a blade, cutting understanding into every mind exposed. Even the most steadfast warriors faltered as comprehension collided with fear. And as the convulsions of the warp subsided, the first mortal to grasp the totality of the design fell to the ground, trembling, while around them, armies pressed onward, unaware that the war had already transcended mere physicality, entering a realm where destiny, devotion, and revelation converged in a cataclysm of cosmic consequence. In the final surge, Primarchs, Astartes, chaplains, and surviving commanders collided in the epicenter of ruin. The battlefield was a symphony of fire, steel, and psychic resonance, fragmented lines of thought shattered by explosions and revelation alike. Every choice, every act of devotion, every remembered betrayal merged into the living chorus of the galaxy's judgment. Soldiers fell beside comrades and enemies alike, their deaths a cadence in the music of consequence. In fleeting moments, eyes met across battlefields, understanding flashing. All wars, all heresies, all faith had led here. The crescendo approached, fate poised like a blade over the throat of existence, and the galaxy itself seemed to quiver, aware that the culmination of millennia of design, devotion, and deception was about to strike. Yet its full meaning remained just beyond mortal perception. As the final wave of assault crashed upon the capital, silence punctuated the fury. Flames reflected in the eyes of survivors, each blink a memorial to those lost. Titans toppled, fleets scattered, psychic screams echoed. Yet within the devastation, a slow, mournful rhythm persisted, the heartbeat of a universe reshaped. Those who survived moved through rubble, their breaths shallow, their faith fractured but alive, carrying the weight of revelation without understanding. The Golden Age, the fall, the manipulation of devotion, all had converged here, leaving only the quiet aftermath and the faint hum of truths too vast for comprehension. And in that silence, the stars themselves seemed to shift, acknowledging that something eternal had changed, a hidden architect's will fulfilled, leaving the galaxy altered forever, its future uncertain, its fate suspended on the fragile thread of revelation. The smoke had cleared. The sky, once scorched with fire and lightning, now hung heavy with ash and muted stars. Beneath it, the ruins of the capital lay silent, streets littered with the remnants of banners, weapons, and the faith of countless souls. Titans stood motionless, their armor blackened and silent, shadows of gods fallen into stillness. Among the wreckage, survivors moved slowly, their steps hesitant, their minds burdened by revelations too vast for memory alone. Prayer had become a whisper, devotion a scar. Cathedrals shattered to their foundations reflected the pale light of dying suns, their spires fractured yet defiantly upright. And in this quiet, the universe seemed to exhale, mourning the weight of choices made, sacrifices rendered, and truths glimpsed but never understood. A solitary remembrancer, quill in trembling hand, began to record what remained, knowing the echoes would endure far longer than comprehension. In the abandoned war-torn hives, silence replaced screaming. Civilians wandered through streets scorched black, collecting relics, tokens of faith, and fragments of hope, uncertain if devotion had survived the fires. Priests moved among them, hands trembling, chanting litanies for the dead, for the living, and for the futures now impossible. Memory and sorrow intertwined, binding survivors to the ruins of their own history. Smoke drifted from collapsed buildings, carrying with it the faint scent of incense and blood, a reminder that faith had been both weapon and shield. The remembrancer's voice traced over these details in ink, aware that no God would answer the questions arising in every heart. Had obedience been justice, or merely a chain? Had survival itself been an act of faith or of complicity? And with each word written, the shadows of the past pressed closer, patient and eternal. Among the shattered armories, rusting weapons leaned against walls, abandoned by those who would never wield them again. Helmets lay cracked, etched with symbols of devotion, their owners lost to flame or fate. Each relic spoke of choices, acts of courage, acts of despair, acts of unquestioned obedience, and the remembrancer paused, pen hovering, sensing the weight of the histories recorded in silence. Across the planet, distant thunder hinted at storms unending, yet no armies answered the call. Even the enemy had vanished, leaving only the husks of conflict, echoes of valor and horror intertwined. And in the quiet, a profound question lingered, like dust in a cathedral of stars. When all faith has been tested, all loyalty expended, and all truth revealed, what remains to guide those who endure the aftermath of gods and men alike? The shattered fleet drifted above, hulls blackened, void light reflecting across silent oceans of wreckage. Pilots who had survived the final assault floated in liminal silence, staring into the cosmos as though the stars themselves had become mournful witnesses. Signals carried no orders, no guidance, only the faint residue of plans once etched in devotion and obedience, now hollowed by revelation. Each mind grappled with the enormity of choices, the ruin left by obedience, and the subtle hand of manipulation behind every victory and defeat. The remembrancer recorded their stories, tracing the lines between courage and futility, triumph and cost, knowing that even centuries hence, no chronicler could fully grasp the totality of what had transpired. And as distant suns winked out one by one, a single lingering question drifted across the void. Can endurance alone be enough to justify survival when the universe itself has weighed your soul? In the ruins of cathedrals, shattered stained glass scattered across floors like fractured constellations. Chaplains whispered prayers to empty halls, the echoes carrying through vaults once brimming with devotion. Each syllable trembled with grief, every gesture weighed with the memory of sacrifice. Soldiers and citizens alike wandered among tombs of faith, touching icons they could no longer comprehend. The remembrancer recorded each moment, aware that these final images, broken spires, abandoned pews, charred banners, would become symbols of endurance as much as ruin. Silence prevailed, yet beneath it, a tremor of memory persisted, a reminder that even in absence, faith leaves its trace. And as candlelight flickered over cracked altars, one question remained unspoken, yet insistent. In a galaxy where devotion can be weaponized, where loyalty can be orchestrated, and where gods may be absent, what becomes of those who still believe? The shattered battlefield stretched into the horizon, pocked with craters, corpses, and the burned husks of vehicles. Smoke rose in lazy spirals, carrying with it the scent of blood and oil, a perfume of finality. Survivors, few and weary, walked slowly among remnants of what had been everything. Oaths kept and broken, faith tested, lives sacrificed. The remembrancer's pen traced the cadence of despair and persistence, of courage shadowed by revelation. Titans, dormant and scarred, loomed like silent witnesses. And across the barren fields, the question of purpose lingered, as if the ground itself remembered. What does it mean to endure when all empires crumble, when all certainties fracture, and when the cost of devotion is written in fire and death? The wind carried the echo, answering nothing, leaving only silence and the faint murmur of memory. Among ruined archives, the remnants of knowledge smoldered. Codices, databanks, and illuminated manuscripts lay charred or open to pages long unread. Every record told of ambition, heresy, obedience, and betrayal. The remembrancer moved among them, cataloging not only events, but the quiet despair of history itself, aware that truth could survive in memory even when understanding failed. Every inked word became a monument to loss, every smudged parchment a reminder that even the most careful chronicles could not shield the living from revelation. Outside, stars winked in fractured constellations, indifferent witnesses to human perseverance. And as the remembrancer's quill hovered, a final reflection formed. Perhaps survival is not proof of righteousness, but testimony to endurance, and perhaps the universe only watches, unyielding, as those who remain bear the burden of unanswerable questions across the silent cosmos. In the twilight of orbital vistas, fleets drifted like specters, unmanned or deserted, reflecting distant stars in scarred hulls. The last transmissions carried no orders, only faint echoes of history and devotion, signals that had once directed fleets, armies, and faith. Pilots and admirals long dead were memorialized in the silence, their lives absorbed into the immensity of consequence. The remembrancer recorded the imagery, tracing the interplay of courage and futility, valor and loss, devotion and despair. And in the quiet hum of drifting vessels, one final thought persisted, that the galaxy itself had shifted, altered by revelation, sacrifice, and obedience, and that the cost of understanding might forever outweigh comprehension. The silence endured, yet in it, the faintest pulse of memory suggested that though empires fall, the echoes of faith and ruin persist across time. Across deserted plains, fractured banners fluttered in the faint winds, their colors muted, symbols torn yet defiantly upright. Soldiers' footprints pressed into ash and dust, leading to nowhere, tracing paths of devotion, loyalty, and futility. Every ruin spoke to the price of obedience and the burden of choice. The remembrancer noted how even in silence, the universe told stories through absence, of those who fought, those who endured, and those who had vanished into memory. Light from distant suns glanced off shattered armor, illuminating scars and inscriptions, a testament to courage rendered meaningless and meaningful all at once. And as the last whispers of prayer faded into empty air, the chronicle asked gently, without offering answers, can endurance be enough when knowledge and faith alike have been weaponized, and when every victory has left nothing but ruin behind? Among the remnants of psychic storms, visions lingered like ghosts, echoes of revelation and despair. Psychers, few who survived, felt their minds brushed by truths too vast for understanding, glimpses of the architecture of history, faith, and manipulation. The remembrancer recorded what could be grasped, aware that comprehension itself was fleeting. Stars shivered in resonance, and the warp hummed faintly, as if mourning the culmination of cycles whose ends had been witnessed by too few. Even as silence fell across battlefields, fleets, and ruined cities, the echo of what had occurred reverberated through minds and memory. And in this stillness, one question endured, unanswerable and patient. What becomes of those who survive when the cosmos has already judged them, and when the galaxy itself has changed beyond recognition? In the depths of ruined sanctums, candles flickered weakly against walls blackened by fire and memory. Statues wept dust, icons hung in quiet resignation, and the last faithful moved among shadows with bowed heads. The remembrancer traced every gesture, every remaining breath, every faint movement as evidence that devotion persisted even in ruin. Time itself seemed to pause, holding the weight of history in suspended reflection. And as the final passage of the chronicle unfolded, it became clear. The universe had shifted irrevocably, but whether for ruin or rebirth was unknown. The echoes of battle, faith, and revelation lingered, a whisper carried across the stars, asking no answers, offering only remembrance, leaving those who witnessed to carry the weight of eternity in silence. Beneath fractured cathedrals, the wind carried ash like prayers, scattering memory across deserted streets and shattered spires. Survivors moved like ghosts, leaving footprints that would be erased by time, yet memorialized in the Remembrancer's chronicle. The galaxy exhaled, heavy with centuries of devotion, betrayal, and revelation. Light shifted, stars trembled, and the silence became a voice in itself, recounting every sacrifice and every act of endurance. And in this final reflection, the chronicle whispered to the witness, "Stand here, observe, remember. See the echoes of faith and ruin, carry them through time. Let the story endure, not to answer questions, but to hold them, fragile and infinite, as the universe itself waits, patient and eternal." Like, subscribe, share, and comment to bear witness to this chronicle of shadows and devotion.